Hello everyone, finally, welcome along. It's a new week here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. The tournament might not be over in Montreal, but we're looking ahead to the tournament this week in Cincinnati, another ATP Tour 1000 event, and delighted to say joining me as per usual. Not on this day, it's a Monday, but it's Sean Calvert, our senior ATP Tour handicapper. Sean, I mean, what is going on? The weather's played havoc, the Olympics have knock-on effect from that.
Yep.
We still haven't been completed yet over in Montreal, but we've got Cincinnati in the final. No one expected two players to be in the final. It's been a weird week.
Did you not have Popyrin at 300 to 1 each way?
It was on my shortlist.
I did say that bottom half was open. Unfortunately, I chose two in that bottom half. Draper, who was injured, had a wrist injury, and Felix, who didn't do anything at all once again in Montreal. And Popyrin, who, again, I talked last week about Korda being lucky to win Washington, saving match points. And Popyrin saved 3 match points against Dimitrov, one of them with the aid of a net cord. Otherwise, he'd have been out in straight sets to Dimitrov. Rode his luck, got there. A lot of players had to play 2 matches in a day, didn't they? Because of the torrential downpour, the Debbie thing, this tropical storm Debbie that basically wiped out one day. I mean, it's a daft schedule anyway. The only thing we can say that's kind of positive about it is that this won't be happening next year, because next year is when the longer Masters 1000s kick in. So I think we're having 2 weeks of Canada. We're certainly having 2 weeks of Cincinnati. I think all the Masters are going to be 2 weeks apart from Monte Carlo and Paris, I think they're all going to be 2 weeks. So this summer has just been absolutely hectic, hasn't it? One week had 4 tournaments, didn't it? And then there was 3 tournaments. Then they shoved the Olympics in there on a different surface. I don't think it'd have been so bad if it had been played on hard, which fits in with the next spell of the tour. But to put it on clay, I think that's what's been the issue in Montreal. I think a lot of players just weren't used to it. I mean, Popyrin wasn't. Popyrin was at the Olympics, wasn't he? So he's come in and
in Umag. You used to see him.
I watched him in Umag, courtside, defending his title. He was absolutely dreadful. Now he's come in at some crazy price, which I'm sure nobody on the planet has bet, and he's in the final. But that final's not taking place till Monday night, local time, 7:30, I think it is. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about that later. But it's been a bit crazy, and it's very, very hot today as well, isn't it? I'm struggling a bit here in this heat.
Yeah, it's a hot day. It's hottest day of the year in the UK today, but we're talking about the tournament in Cincinnati. The other thing about this is all these players coming in injured and all these players, changing surfaces. The Olympics has played havoc in this sort of late summer months. Mm-hmm. When we go to the US Open, the big criticism over the last few years is that players have gone into the US Open absolutely exhausted and absolutely none of them fit. And this is a concern and getting worse this year. By the time the US Open starts, it's going to be the survival of the fittest, surely.
Well, it's kind of September, isn't it? They've been playing for a full 8 months. Don't get me started on the tennis calendar. We could do an entire show about what's wrong with the tennis calendar. But yeah, the US Open being where it is, it's not ideal anyway, because the players have got 8 months of wear and tear, in their bodies. Now it's even worse because they've shoehorned the Olympics in, and a lot of players have busted a gut, particularly, obviously, Novak Djokovic is the obvious example, the one who really wanted to win it. A lot of guys put a lot of effort into that, Felix and Musetti. So, yeah, the US Open might be even worse in terms of players arriving bedraggled, but I suppose it could be an opportunity for us if we're aware of the injuries, which a lot of the time we aren't. They just kind of crop up, and some players don't mention it for obvious reasons. So it's just another conundrum for us to solve, isn't it?
Yep, and hopefully we do solve those conundrums. The countdown to the US Open in Flushing Meadow continues this week with Cincinnati, the ATP Tour 1000 event. We'll have everybody covered at the men's and the women's side of the US Open, which starts in about 2.5 weeks now. Here on 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks, isn't it? 2-3 weeks. 2.5 weeks. 2 weeks.
Well, you got Cincinnati this week, Winston-Salem next week, and then so 2 weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, 2 weeks. We'll have you covered here on the Betting Weekly Studios on YouTube for the men's and the women's action. As I say, it's all about Cincinnati. It's a 1,000 event. It's a tournament that's over the years, the big names have dominated. Novak Djokovic has won it 4 times since 2018. You've got Coric won it in 2021, which was a shock. 22, which was a shock. Zverev 2021, Medvedev in 2019, his first Masters 1000, Dimitrov 2017, Cilic 2016, and prior to that it was dominated by Roger Federer, Nadal, Andy Murray's a former winner here. Djokovic has been the man to go to in this tournament, defending champion, but he's not going to be here. He's saving himself for the US Open. After that, it's, the run to the final, winning the gold medal in Paris is another tournament we do not see Novak Djokovic in action. Before we go on to the runners and riders, Sean, conditions in Cincinnati, it's usually been quite quick. This year we expect more of the same.
Yeah, I mean, they keep changing the surface here. It used to be a deco turf, then it was a lake hold, and then they changed it to a green set cushion, which is what it is now. They use the same Wilson US Open balls that they used in Montreal, and there is a bit of altitude here, 238 metres. It's not much altitude, but it does make it on the quicker side, and the ball's kind of hard to control. The players were complaining about the Wilson balls being hard to control in Montreal. They'll certainly complain about it here with the added altitude. Djokovic, I'll tell you what Djokovic said last year. He said, it's definitely some of the quickest hard court conditions we play on. The ball is really lively and tough to control, but if you serve well and hit your spots well, it gives you a great advantage. So lively conditions. The average is 81% holds, 74% first serve points won. That puts it reasonably quick. Not dreadfully quick, but quick-ish. Tie-break matches, 41% of the matches have featured a tie-break here on average. There's no bias in overs or unders. It's exactly 50% over under 22.5, so nothing really to speak of there. But set one over 10.5 games is interesting here. It's a bet I like in the right conditions. In the last 3 editions of Cincinnati, 40% of the matches have gone over 10.5 games in set one. So you'd be looking at odds of about 2.5 plus 150. Anything there or thereabouts or bigger of set one overs, that would interest me in these conditions. As far as underdog winners are concerned, 34% on average. That is about average for par for the course for the tour. But round one is the best round, as you can probably imagine, with the conditions being a little bit tricky. 37% in round one. And I think... I'll come on to the trends in a minute, but those are the... Do you want to do the trends now? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so as far as the trends are concerned, only one of the last 11 number one seeds has won the title here, which is Novak Djokovic in 2020. And I'm just going to have to get my phone for another stat, because there's a good stat here of players not winning Montreal and Cincinnati back-to-back. If I could get my phone to work, it would be helpful. So the only 4 that have done it, Andre Agassi, Patrick Rafter, Andy Roddick and Rafael Nadal, they're the only 4 in modern times that have won the Canada Masters and Cincinnati back-to-back. So it's very, very difficult to do. So that's obviously a strong trend. As you said, plenty of big...
I'd be amazed if the name Popyrin went on that list of...
Wouldn't that be great if Popyrin suddenly won back-to-back Masters? That would be amazing. I doubt he's going to show up for the first round, actually, but we'll see.
No.
Plenty of big price winners and finalists over the years. As you said, Coric was 300 to 1 shot when he won it in 2022. Of course, he beat our man, didn't he? And we had Tsitsipas that year, about 20 odd to 1. And we were expecting to cash in that final, weren't we? And Coric beat him. Milos Raonic made the final here in 2020 when it was held at Flushing Meadows, because it was COVID year, wasn't it? He was 100 to 1 when he made the final. Medvedev won here as a 33 to 1 shot in 2019, beat 80 to 1 Goffin in the final, and 33 to 1 Dimitrov beat 25 to 1 Kyrgios in 2017. So although Djokovic has won it a few times, it took him a long time, if memory serves me rightly, to win here, because the conditions are so difficult. Once he mastered it, he went on to win it a couple more times after that, but it did take him a long time to figure out the conditions here. So tricky conditions, and tough to back up, tough to go from Montreal to here and hit the ground running.
Djokovic has won it 3 times in the last 6 years. He's defending champion, but he's not in the draw this week. The number 1 seed is Jannik Sinner, who is not playing at all well, really. I don't think he's playing well at all. Let's have a look at the draw. Yeah, I think when we go through this draw, you can tell me most of them are injured. We're going to go through the draw now. These are the seeds, and this is the way it should go if we go to seedings. As all 1,000 events, the top 8 seeds receive byes through to the round of 64. Jannik Sinner is the number 1 seed. He's in the top half. If it goes to the way of seedings, he'll play Andrei Rublev in the quarterfinals, who's still got the final to play over in Montreal. Zverev, who was shocked this week when he got beat by Sebastian Korda. He's the number 3 seed. He will play Dimitrov, who also got beat by Popyrin. Should have won that match as well. He's into the quarter. That will be the quarterfinal number 2. In Q3, it'll be Hurkacz, another one who's injured, against Medvedev, who didn't play last week. Casper Ruud.
Medvedev played. He was just dreadful.
Oh, yeah, I must have forgot. There must have been. I thought he didn't.
He
play.
lost in the first round to Davidovich Fokina.
That's probably why I forgot that he played. Medvedev, who lost in the first round to Davidovich Fokina, will play Hurkacz in the bottom half of the draw, and Casper Ruud will play Carlos Alcaraz if it goes to the seedings. But obviously, as you see this week, it's not going to seedings. There has been some shocks in the last few weeks in the world of tennis. And last tournament was one of the most craziest tournaments I can remember for living memory. There's no anyone really fancied winning it. I didn't think Medvedev was in it. That's how quickly he disappeared from the tournament. So they're through. They are the 8. Let's have a look how the odds with BetRivers shape up for the tournament. Carlos Alcaraz, who's bidding to win his first Cincinnati tournament. He's the favourite, the number 2 seed at plus 140. His first match since his disappointment of losing in the final of the Olympic Games. So he's got to go from Paris on clay across to a very, very fast Cincinnati court, plus 140. Jannik Sinner not playing great, the number 1 seed, injury concern, plus 210. Medvedev not playing well either, $7. Zverev, a winner here in 2021, playing okay, but disappointing performance against Korda. He's $11. Sebastian Korda, 28, won a tournament, and then he's got to the final of a semi-final of a tournament, playing quite well, 28-1. Andrei Rublev has still got the tournament this week to play in the final. He's 28-1. Taylor Fritz and then Tommy Paul, the 2 Americans, are 33. Grigor Dimitrov 40. Jack Draper disappointing last week at 40. Tsitsipas 40. Hurkacz 50. Casper Ruud 50. Ben Shelton 50. Felix Auger-Aliassime 55. Not playing at all well either last week. And Berrettini, who is playing well, at 55-1. I mean, I'm looking at that draw there, Sean, and I'm looking at those odds. And I find it. I think I might want to go down further on the list of the 55-1 to find someone who's potential. I think out of all that list, the one that stands out for me is Berrettini at 55-1. But let's see what you have to say about that.
Yeah, he's certainly a possibility. I'll just quickly run through what's happening with the top guys. Alcaraz, I think, arrived here. I think it was yesterday or the day before. He was hitting with Berrettini, apparently. So he's getting used to the conditions. Sinner is the interesting one. I'll tell you what he said after he lost to Rublev. He said, "My body's not as agile as I would like due to the issue that prevented me from playing in Paris. But I haven't been comfortable mentally either. I hope to be in shape again as soon as possible. I don't expect miracles in the next 5 days. I assume I won't be able to play at 100% in Cincinnati, but I do intend to arrive at my best for the US Open 2024, which is my main goal." So he's not in great shape. He had the tonsillitis issue. This hip issue apparently hasn't gone away either. A lot of people are talking about him, saying that he's still got pain in this hip issue that he's had for quite a long time. So he's not in great shape. Medvedev, awful last week against Davidovich Fokina. Wouldn't be surprised if he was a lot better this week, but he's got a lot of work to do to find a better level than what he showed last week. Zverev looks knackered at the moment, unfortunately. Just sort of faded away against Korda. Should have beaten Korda, really, especially after winning that second set so easily, but just looks a bit tired. Rublev's an interesting one as well. I'll tell you what he said, because it's something I've not heard him say before. He said, "I've been fighting depression for many years, dealing with many problematic issues off the court, and I ended up very burnt out. This season I exploded, especially on the court." So that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that, but we've seen him explode on the court many, many times, and there's obviously something going on off the court. It's leading to sort of mental health problems for him. So that's just something that I think is relevant. Going slightly further down, Casper Ruud withdrew in Montreal, didn't he? Played one match and then withdrew for unspecified reasons. Draper had a wrist injury last week, withdrew from the doubles after playing a really poor match in the first round against Thompson. Hurkacz, for me, didn't look like he could move properly. He came back very, very early after a serious knee injury at Wimbledon. I think he was told at the time that this season would be over, but lo and behold, in about 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it was, he's back on court. He was wearing sort of supportive leggings, like under, like almost like the thermal sort of leggings that you wear in the cold weather. He was wearing them. Didn't look like he could move to his right particularly well, and he had to play back-to-back matches. Shelton's not in any sort of form, so it's a struggle. Is it? Tommy Paul's injured as well. He had an ankle issue in a loss to Nakashima last week, so it could be survival of the fittest here. So I have got a couple of ideas, as you can imagine, but that's just a quick rundown of the favourites.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draw here. I mean, I like Berrettini's chances, but he opens up against Holger Rune in the first round, which is a difficult match. So you want him to get through that. He's also in the same section as Alcaraz as well, so that's a difficult part of the draw here. Alcaraz is the favourite plus 140, and of all the players, he's the one who's probably the most fittest. So you can explain why the plus 140 for the Spaniard. The weather conditions is going to be good though as well all week. We've got good weather. We had a mixed bag last week, with the storm coming in and everything like that. All looking good though.
Well, it looks okay until about Thursday or Friday when there are some thunderstorms expected. It may pass through. I don't think anything is as bad as that tropical storm Debbie thing. I don't think anything like that is expected. But 25 to 29, kind of roughly the temperatures up until Friday when they may have thunderstorms. But let's not worry about that now.
Yeah, we are recording this on Monday, and the tournament does start today, though. So there are a couple of matches. It starts at 3 p.m. today. Kaboli plays Tommy Paul. Khachanov plays Serendud. It shouldn't really affect the outright market, but the outright market will be suspended when you head across to the Bet Rivers website. So before you do go across to the Bet Rivers website, make sure you go across early before 3 p.m. Eastern time today, because you want to get on the bets that Sean is going to predict the winners. You want to get them on early rather than wait till the market's suspended when the action does start. So when we head across, where are we placing our money, Sean?
So, top half, I'm going with the aforementioned Dimitrov this week. 40 to 1, I think he is, with Bet Rivers. As I said, very, very unlucky against Popyrin. Should have won that in straight sets. Had 3 match points, got a little bit robbed by an unfortunate net cord on one of them. I feel like he's probably been better prepared than quite a few in this top half of the draw. I've talked about Sinner's problems. Rublev is obviously going to have very, very little time to adapt. The other one, Zverev, looks like he's running on fumes to me. Dimitrov should have had longer to prepare. That loss to Popyrin might work out for him. Okay, it was disappointing from last week, but it might work to his benefit this week. He's got longer to get used to these slightly tricky Cincinnati conditions. Certainly longer than the other 3 high seeds in the top half of the draw. And interesting, if you look at the last 4 Masters 1000s that have been played in reasonably lively conditions, so I mean Shanghai, Paris, Miami and Montreal, Dimitrov's made the semi-finals, 2 finals, and that unlucky defeat to Popyrin in Montreal. He's also a former champion here in Cincinnati. It was a few years ago, but quick conditions lately, Masters 1000s, he's been the man. And he certainly won't be fatigued, because he like Hurkacz, he got injured at Wimbledon, came back at Montreal last week, played a couple of matches, looked great in his first match. We did cash it. We were Popyrin on the plus 3.5. Just had to save 3 match points to do it, but was very unlucky against Popyrin, and we've seen what Popyrin's gone on to do in that tournament. So 40 to 1 for me, Dimitrov in the top half, and I've got one in the bottom half as well.
Yep, Dimitrov 40 to 1. Should have gone a little bit further. Counting himself very unlucky not to progress even further. All those match points against Popyrin. And hopefully he can go a little bit better than that. At 40 to 1 is our bet. The winner here back in 2017, and here's Sean's bet at the top half of the draw. And in the bottom half of the draw, where are we heading there?
I'm going to do something that I don't do very often, which is stick with the guy who I had last week, which is Felix. And the reason for that is I've got an idea of how this draw might pan out in Q4. It's headed up by Alcaraz and Ruud. Felix, assuming that he beats a qualifier, which I'm hoping that he does. Certainly disappointed in the first round last week. Assuming he beats that qualifier, his first match will be against Casper Ruud, who Ruud is 2-5 win-loss in Cincinnati. He withdrew in Montreal. Felix has beaten him twice on clay in 2024. And Felix has generally played well here. He's made a couple of quarterfinals here in the last three appearances. So he's gone well. There is a slight excuse. There is a bit of an excuse for him not playing well last week in Montreal. He didn't have that much time to prepare for the change of surfaces. Maybe fatigued, maybe unprepared. I still expect him to go better, considering it was his home tournament. This time he'll be better prepared. As I say, he's got a good record here, good record against Casper Ruud. And the bottom half of that Q4, I'm kind of hoping that Berrettini, or possibly Popyrin if he's got unlimited energy, because Alcaraz's first match will be against either Monfils or Popyrin. If that's Popyrin and he's still got some energy, that might be a tough one for Alcaraz. More likely is that if Berrettini starts firing on this surface, he's not got a great record here, Berrettini. But if he does find his range, his recent form has been very impressive, Berrettini. I'd rather have Berrettini as a kind of a guy to knock out Alcaraz rather than a guy to win it, because this is a tough draw for Berrettini. He's got to beat Rune. I mean, yeah, he should beat Mannarino or whoever the qualifier is in the next round, but then he's got to beat Alcaraz. Then he'd probably have to beat Felix, and Felix has got a good record against Berrettini, beating him several times. So that's my plan about how I hope Q4 is going to work out. Felix is a 55-1 shot. I'm going to give him one more chance here, and that's where I'm going.
One more chance. You don't usually hear Sean Calvert say those words,
feeling
but
benevolent.
He's given Felix Auger-Aliassime, he's 55-1 with Bet Rivers. So there's a couple of prices, and they sort of sit with the range of winners we've had on the tennis season in the last few weeks. Some big prices going in, and then we're going to go on to some matches now. Felix Auger-Aliassime 50-1 and 40-1 for Dimitrov. Good reasoning there, especially the Felix player. I like that a lot. The bottom half does look, that quarter does look quite loaded. Those stacks: Felix, Ruud, Draper, Tsitsipas, Rune, Berrettini,
Struff,
Popyrin,
Tsitsipas,
Alcaraz. Yep, tough one. Let's have a look at some matches. We've got 4 matches. I think it's 4, maybe 5. We're going to discuss
5.
The first match is 5. First match is a pick-em match, 50-50 call. Bet Rivers can't split them. They can't decide who is going to be a winner. I've got a lead on this one. I quite like one of the matches in this one. It's Etcheverry up against Arnaldi. It's minus 112, both of these players. Plus 114 for Etcheverry, giving up 1.5 start. Plus 1.5 for Arnaldi is minus 148. But that, the money line is where it's all at. It's minus 112. Total is 22, which is the standard number really for these hard court matches. Over 22.5 is minus 122. Under minus 145. Arnaldi slightly ahead on the head-to-head, slightly ahead on the world ranking, 29 compared to 37. But it's Etcheverry who leads the head-to-head. They've only met once in a challenger on clay back in 2021. Arnaldi played well this week in Montreal. Reached the semi-final, got beat by Rublev, beat some good players: Kachanov, McDonald, Davidovich, Fokina, and Nishikori. And Rublev beat Etcheverry as well, but he knocked him out in round 2. On the form this year, what they show in the hard court is Arnaldi has had the much better form, 14 wins from 9 compared to Etcheverry. He's only 3 wins from 8 matches. I like Arnaldi here, minus 112. I think I'm massively on the side of the Italian. Hopefully you're on the same way as me.
Nope, I'm going with Etcheverry here.
Oh no! Every time I disagree with you get it right. So I thought you'd be certain to be with Arnaldi. Okay, tell me the reasons why.
This is about physicality, really. I mean, this looks like a great time to play Arnaldi. Of course, we backed Arnaldi, didn't we? In Umag, lost in the first round to Alexandra Muller. Now he's a couple of weeks later, he's got the semi-finals of a Masters 1000 on a hard court. Of course, he has. He's going to be absolutely shattered. Arnaldi. He played 2 matches in one day in Montreal on Saturday. Then he played the semi-final against Rublev on Sunday night, last night. Now he's got to get across from there to Cincinnati on debut. He's never played here before. And now he's got to play Etcheverry, who's had much, much longer to prepare, and he should be much, much fresher. If you look at the stats last 12 months on outdoor hard at main level, Etcheverry's not been winning matches, but his stats are exactly the same as Arnaldi's. Service points won and return points won, total of 100. Both guys on exactly the same stats. I just think, given the fact that this is a pick'em, I think the fatigue factor is a pretty big weight on Arnaldi's shoulders. I'm just watching him here in the replay against Rublev. He's going to be exhausted and so little time to prepare for what are very, very different conditions. I presume he's going to play Tuesday night. It can't be later, according to the tournament schedule of the Western and Southern Masters. The round 1 finishes Tuesday night. So he's got hardly any time to prepare. With Bet Rivers as well, you will get paid on a retirement after the opening set is completed, which is what happened the last time these two met, actually. Arnaldi retired, didn't he, in the third set. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens here. So Etcheverry for me. There's nothing in it on the stats, and the fatigue factor makes him favourite for me.
Well, You'll be pleased to know that Etcheverry is now minus 104 with Bet Rivers. So a nice better price here on Audi. He's been heavily supported, minus 120.
Crazy.
So Etcheverry is, well, I suppose they're looking at the form he played. He did play well last week, but they haven't taken into consideration the fatigue, as you've touched on there. But Etcheverry is minus 104, available now with the Bet Rivers app. Head across there now. You better take a much better price for the Argentinian to beat the Italian, minus 104. The next match we are going to discuss, and it's not really not surprising at all that you've put this in, but whether we actually get to watch this match take place,
it's the same thing.
we'll have to worry about it. It's Alexei Popyrin, obviously, who's in the final over in Montreal. Still got that final to play today. He's up against Gael Monfils, or supposedly playing Gael Monfils, and it's supposed to be playing on Tuesday. Remember, the first matches here are 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it goes throughout the day. And if you do have a bet on the Bet Rivers app or the website, you'll be able to bet live and watch the matches on your app or your tablet or whatever mobile device or wherever you want to watch the matches. Alexei Popyrin here is minus 137, a heavy favourite. Monfils is plus 108. The spread's 1.5 with Popyrin minus 110. And Monfils minus 125. We're waiting for some other markets to come up onto the Bet Rivers website, but this is all we have now. But I think you're going to concentrate on the money line here. Monfils isn't in great form. He hasn't won his last 3 matches. The last win he had was in the second round of Wimbledon, where he beat Stanislaus Wawrinka. And Popyrin is obviously must be out on his feet after 2 matches in a day. Yesterday against Hurkacz and Korda, a final tonight against Rublev, and then tomorrow this match here. So I'm guessing that we're going for Gael Monfils at plus 108.
Yeah, I mean this one's even more obvious, isn't it, than the Arnaldi one? It's a crazy turnaround for Popyrin. He's got to play the Montreal final tonight at 7:30 local time. Then he's got to be on court in Cincinnati, which is, as far as I'm aware, a 4 or 5 hour flight away on Tuesday night. Unless they're going to give him some sort of special dispensation, which I doubt. He's got to be on court Tuesday night according to the tournament schedule. All round 1 matches are finished on Tuesday night, so that's when he's got to be there. I'm assuming he's not going to win the final. I mean, he might, obviously, but he's going to be shattered, isn't he? As you said, he played 2 matches in 1 day on Saturday or Sunday, wasn't it? Losing track of the days. Sunday. Now he's got to play the.
I'm losing track of the days of this.
Very complicated the way they've shoehorned all these tournaments together. Just looking at the stats on outdoor hard at main level, even including Popyrin's run this week, he's not ahead of Monfils in terms of the outdoor hard main level stats last 12 months. Both got service points won and return points won totals of 102. But you throw in the insane turnaround that Popyrin's got to do here, and this is a good opportunity for Monfils, who's had so much more time to prepare after losing, I think, first round in Montreal. The worry is that Monfils is in awful form. He just looks like he's in one of his funks again. Which he gets into on a fairly regular basis. I mean, I would have expected him to brighten up in Montreal, where he gets a lot of, obviously being French, he gets a lot of support from the crowd there, but he was very lacklustre against Kokkinakis. I expected him to come up with a performance there, but he didn't. So that's what puts me slightly off making Monfils an official pick. Again, same thing applies. If 1 set's completed, then you'll get paid out on Monfils if you backed him and he's the winner by retirement, plus 108 with Bet Rivers. But yeah, I think this is a tall order for Popyrin.
Yep, plus 108, Gael Monfils, Popyrin. Lots and lots of tennis to play here. I remember Bet Rivers have a promo. We touched on it. It's a very, very good promo as well. You've got to show your support for Game Bet Match by making a bet with our promo code this month. Use the promo code Game Bet Match with Bet Rivers in the US. You will get a 50% profit boost on any tennis bet of plus $2 odds or longer. This offer is good through to August 25th for eligible players. Maximum bet of $25 and maximum win of $250. If you're a fan of this podcast, please show your support and use this great special. So it's use the promo code GameBetMatch. Now that is for any bet at $2 or bigger. Now that does include parlays. So if you want to have a parlay, and it does include parlays, so make sure you put that in. GameBetMatch. You can get up to 50% bonus back on a profit boost on your bet. So good for parlays. If you want to put those two in a parlay, it'll boost it up. Game Bet Match in the promo code to get up to 50% up through to August the 25th. It's a good offer. I do think that's a good offer, that one for us.
Yeah, I think there's several options that you could take. I mean, you can parlay up some other stuff that I've suggested. There's another couple that I've got later on that could be useful for a parlay. So yeah, getting 50% profit boost for free, it's not to be sniffed at, is it?
Yeah, and also Sean has an individual bet at $2 or bigger. You can put it in as a single, whichever you prefer.
Sometimes do.
The next match up we are going to discuss is Jordan Thompson against Hugo Humbert, the Frenchman, minus $2 with Bet Rivers. Thompson plus 160. They've never met before. The first time they've met, which is a bit of a surprise. Spread is 2.5, minus 2.5. Humbert minus 115, minus 110 for Jordan Thompson, receiving a 2.5 totals, 22.5, minus 105 for under, minus 122 for over. I couldn't trust either of these at the moment. I think they were supposed to play in Brisbane this year, but Thompson has got a walkover. They haven't played a competitive match. But Zverev beats Thompson in Montreal. And surprisingly, Humbert got beat by Borges in Montreal, which was a shock result there. So both of them not playing the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, Borges is a much improved player on quicker surfaces than he was this time last year. But, just a kind of typical Humbert result, isn't it? I don't think I'd bet him at minus $2 to beat anybody that's in the top. Well, Thompson's 30 in the world now. I wouldn't bet him at minus $2 to beat anybody in the top 30, unless there's extenuating circumstances. If you look at the last 12 months and outdoor hard at main level, there's nothing in this in terms of service points won and return points won totals. Both are on 102. So immediately I'm thinking, okay, there's potentially some value on Thompson there at plus 160 in what should be a 50-50 if you're just taking the flat stats. Humbert, I just feel like this is not conditions that are going to be particularly easy for him. The ball flies. There's a lot of unforced errors to be had if you're not careful. I could just see Humbert struggling to control the ball because he hasn't performed well here in his career so far. I think he's 1-3 win-loss here. Let me have a look. Yeah, he's 1-3 win-loss. He's played 4 matches. He's only won 1 of them. And in those 4 matches, his service points won and return points won total is 94. Thompson, I think, has played 3 matches and his total is 99. I just feel like Thompson's steadier game against Humbert in these conditions will probably have a decent chance of coming out on top. Humbert's going to have to play a very, very clean match to win it. If you are betting Humbert, I'd probably bet him to win it 2-0 because he's going to have to play extremely well to beat Jordan Thompson. It's a similar matchup for Thompson that Draper was last week. And Draper was, an attacking left-hander. And he didn't get anywhere, Draper. I know Draper had his problems with injuries, a left wrist injury. His serve was awful. He donated a couple of breaks on double faults, Draper. But in the neutral rallies, he couldn't hit through Thompson. Thompson was just like a brick wall. And I feel like that's the kind of way this match could potentially play out again. There's no obvious weakness as far as Jordan Thompson's concerned against left-handers. He's won 51% of his main level matches against left-handers and only 48% against right-handers. So he's actually won more against lefties than righties in his main level career. So nothing scary about him facing left-handers. Just beating a good one in Draper last week as well. So it's just a bad price on Humbert. Hopefully that price will get punished. Plus 160 for Jordan Thompson for me.
More good news for you.
Bigger?
It's got bigger. Plus 165, Jordan Thompson now. Minus 210, Hugo Humbert. So the market wants to be with the Frenchman in. Minus 210 now is the price.
I mean, he might win the match, obviously, but there's a price and there's a price. That's not the way to do it for me.
Just one thing before we move on, Sean. We've had a lot of people have come into this show a lot of new subscribers. Thank you very much. New watchers since Wimbledon. A lot of our views have been growing quite rapidly since Wimbledon.
Yep.
And a lot of people have asked me a question about your points, where you used when you referred to 101 and 95 on the points. And I know it's a question you've been asked many times before, but for new subscribers and new people to the show, they've asked me, can you explain again how you come to those points that you mention so often when you're looking at the match bets?
Well, it all gets worked out for me, so I don't have to do any of that, thankfully. But it's just the number of service points that a player wins over a certain period of time, let's say last 12 months, at main level, all surfaces, or just on clay, or just on hard, or whatever. You can isolate it however you like. The percentage of service points he wins, normally it's around about 65%-ish, depending on the surface and the player. And then the return points that player's won in the same period of time. Obviously, the higher the total, the better they are, basically, to cut it down to the bare bones. Just gives you an idea over the longer period of time you can do it, the better. But you've also got to be careful about what time frame you do it, because if they were injured at a certain point. That's why generally I'll say last 12 months or last 10 matches. It kind of depends how I want to break it down, what period of time I'm looking at. It just gives you an idea of the level, the level of tennis, the form that they've displayed over that period of time. And it's quite a good indicator of what they're capable of, what they've been producing. Sometimes if you go back further in time, they've been producing better or worse, and then you figure out whether they're on, declining a bit or improving a bit. It just gives you an idea of their level at a certain period.
There you have it. I know it's a question a lot of people who asked, and there we have. Sean has explained to you very nicely, and it's a good way of looking at how the players are performing. We have 2 more matches we are going to discuss in the first round in Cincinnati, and it's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina up against his France's Tiafoe. Tiafoe is minus 148. Davidovich Fokina is minus 118. The two of them have had a tough year so far. Davidovich Fokina had a big win last week though against Medvedev, and then he retired against Arnaldi in the 3rd set. Tiafoe lost his last 2 matches against Korda in the semi-finals at Washington, and he lost in the first round, very disappointing, against Tabilo. But it is the American here who is the market leader, minus 148. Davidovich Fokina is plus 118. Spread 1.5 again, total 22.5 again. Under on the totals, evens over minus 129 on the spread. Davidovich Fokina is minus 110, receiving 1.5. Tiafoe minus 1.5 is minus 115. Head across to the BetRivers website. 29 different markets available on this match. Which market are we going to play, Sean?
I'll probably take the over sets here. I can't see either of these two getting this done in straight sets. It's a poor price again on Tiafoe. He's often priced up much too short on what he's done previously to the last 12 months. What he's done in the last 12 months is not good. Certainly not by previous standards that he displayed. Again, we're looking at the last 12 months on this surface, outdoor hard at main level. They've both got exactly the same win rate, 54%. And it's actually Davidovich that's got a slightly better service points won and return points won total. 102 for him compared to 101 for Tiafoe. So again, it's got me thinking, well, minus 148 on Tiafoe. It's not based on what he's been producing in the last year, that's for sure. You know he's capable of better, and that's the conundrum with Tiafoe. When is he going to produce this better? He'll show signs of it, like at Wimbledon. I think Washington DC, I think he played reasonably well as well. Played very well against Rublev. They're not good against Korda. He's very, very up and down. He doesn't have a particularly great record here, Tiafoe. He hasn't won back-to-back matches in Cincinnati since 2017, Tiafoe, and his service points won and return points won total at this tournament is 101, which is exactly the same as his 12-month stats. So there's nothing in this for me that makes Tiafoe minus 148, other than the fact that he's kind of playing at home. Davidovich in Cincinnati, been a bit unlucky with his draws. I think he's played 3 matches here. Hurkacz beat him, Kyrgios beat him, and he retired against Djokovic. So he's not had much of a chance to show what he can do in these conditions, Davidovich. He's another slightly strange one in the sense that he's Spanish, but doesn't seem to like the heat. It wasn't particularly hot in Montreal last week, but he still retired against... It didn't seem to be an injury. It seemed to be an illness, like a heat-related illness against Arnaldi. So slightly peculiar. The head-to-head was a match that I remember very well, actually. It was in Estoril. I'm sure it was in Estoril. Yet another match where Davidovich managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. He was 5-2 up in the decider of that one, Davidovich Fokina against Tiafoe. Lost 5 straight games in a row to lose it 7-5. That's very Davidovich Fokina. If you've not seen him that much, he does this all the time. Did it, a week or 2 ago against... Was it Caboli? It was Caboli, wasn't it? He was 4-1 up in the final set. 6-2, I think he was up in the final set tiebreak, managed to lose. And it can't help him that much that he's got Fernando Verdasco giving him advice. That's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Having Verdasco in your corner, a guy who used to do this sort of thing on a regular basis throughout his career, managed to...
I love watching Verdasco play, though. It was a great...
he was very entertaining, but he used to throw away match-winning positions pretty much every week. And now he's advising Davidovich Fokina. So, and surprisingly, he hasn't stopped throwing away 1.01, 1.05, in play positions on a regular basis. So, A conundrum of a match. Tiafoe's too short at -148, that's for sure, based on what he's done in the last 12 months. Difficult to see Davidovich, the way his level is up and down, winning it in straight sets. Just feels like a decider would have to separate these two. So over 2.5 sets would be my lean here, +128. Or you could decide that Davidovich is slight value on the money line at +118, which he is. Just a question of whether you trust him or not mentally.
I don't trust him. No, I couldn't bet him. You'll probably bet him at +118. It's a trading match, this one, for sure. If you want to get in and out of markets and take decent plus money on both players, I think both of them will hit +125,
Probably.
+130 and play and get a nice free bet. That's the kind of way I'll be approaching this match.
Yeah.
The final match is a very interesting one, and unlike a lot of the other matches we've spoken to today, there's a lot of history between these two to go by. Jan-Lennard Struff is up against Stefanos Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas, obviously, last week, after his defeat, complaining, blaming his father for his loss, or anyone. Nishikori was the defeat, didn't play very well, lost in the quarterfinals at the Olympics as well to Djokovic. Struff got beat in the Olympics by Matteo. This is his first match back on the hard court, where you think he'd probably be a little bit more, he would be a little bit more suited to. Struff is +155, I say. Stefanos -195. The spread is 2.5 here, but the interesting one for me is total games, over 23.5 and under 23.5. I've looked at the head-to-head between these two. They have played 9 times, but one of them was on a challenger way back in 2017. On the main tour, they played 8 times. It's 4 wins apiece. And if you look at those matches, only 2 of those matches, of those 8 matches, 6 of them have gone over that 23.5 line in the total games. And they've gone over pretty easily as well. They met here in Cincinnati in 2019. Struff won 6-4, 6-7, 7-6. And if you look at their 8 matches, 6 of those matches have produced tie breaks. Now, when you spoke about the trends on the over 10.5 games in set number 1, this one would be high up on the lists when you're looking at overs for sure.
It would, and you can get +165 at Bet Rivers over 10.5 games in set 1.
I think I'd play the side break and get the bigger than 2 to 1 and play the game bet match.
What price is tie break played?
You give me the bet and I'll find it. I'm not looking. I need to find it, so I need to take me a bit
Okay,
of time.
so I've got a lot to say about this one. Anyway, it's Stefanos Tsitsipas' birthday today, so happy birthday to.
I know he watches every week. So
does he?
Their birthday.
Maybe he's taking some advice because he needs a new coach, doesn't he? So, it's his birthday today. I wonder if his dad's getting him a new coach as a present. That would be ironic, wouldn't it? Because he obviously needs one now that he's split up with his dad. Not surprising after Tsitsipas slagged him off quite royally after the loss to Nishioka. I think it's a long time coming, to be fair. I think he's tried it a few times. I think he had Philippoussis, didn't he, at one stage in his team? There were 1 or 2 others as well. I think he's had over the years that kind of haven't really lasted that long, presumably because of the presence of Apostolos. You would feel you wouldn't quite feel like you were in charge as a coach if you came in and his dad was kind of still there, pulling all the strings or whatever. But so hopefully it'll be a happier birthday for Tsitsipas than the week he's had last week. But this one, I mean, it's got to be a serve-dominated affair, hasn't it, in lively conditions. If you look at their head-to-head away from clay, so they've played 5 matches on outdoor hard, indoor hard and grass. The service points won and return points won totals of those 5 matches, both exactly 100. So, in fact, all the stats are virtually identical. There's nothing to choose between them at all, and yet we've got Tsitsipas as virtually -$2 favourite here, not far off, -195. Just looking further into those stats of those 5 matches, Struff holds serve 92% of the time, Tsitsipas holds serve 93% of the time, and both guys only win 29% of return points. So 71% of service points are being won by these guys when they face each other in quick conditions, which it certainly should be here in Cincinnati. 4 of those 5 matches have gone over 22.5 total games. As you said, the vast majority of them have gone to either sort of final sets or final set tie breaks. The slight worry, the reason I'm not really wanting to back Struff is because he's coming from the Olympics where he had to withdraw with illness. So he hasn't played on hard for some time, whereas Tsitsipas has. So in theory, Tsitsipas should be the one that's better prepared. But is he really? Because he's been messing about with his strings. That was one of the issues, wasn't it? That kind of the string that broke the camel's back, if you like, with his dad. He was basically saying these strings were sort of foisted upon him by his dad, even though he said he didn't want to use them. So whether he's going to stay with his original setup, I assume that's what he's going to do, go back to his original setup rather than continue with these strings that he doesn't want. So not the best preparation for either guy, really. Struff's coming in a little bit cold. And this isn't a tournament that is easy to get used to the conditions, as I said before. It's quite difficult, the ball flies. But you'd think he wouldn't have too much of a problem on serve. And given that these two are so serve dominant when they play each other, the over 10.5 in set one, plus 165, that's value when you consider a sort of mean average is plus 150 for this tournament for that bet.
Yeah, I love that bet. A tiebreak is plus 250. So plus 250 in first set tiebreak, 6 tiebreaks between these two. You have that bet. It falls into the category of $2 or bigger.
What's tiebreaking match? Have they got that or not really?
I've got to find out. Well, I'm looking for an angle so I could put in the bonus. So I wanted to look at that.
Okay. I imagine it's probably
number of tie. It's minus 121 a tiebreak in the match,
which is what, about 1.8 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I would rather go with the set one. That's probably a sort of safer play if you like the sort of shorter prices or whatever. But I think there's definitely value on the set one overs. What normally happens here, which is frustrating, is he normally ends up 6-3 in the first set and then 7-6 in the second, which is happened to me countless.
Which is exactly what it happened to me, Sean. Sorry to interrupt. It happened to me. Popyrin against Hercash. I played over 10.5 first set. Lost the first set 6-3, and the next two sets were 7-6, 6-7.
Exactly. It is frustrating, but that's why it's a bigger price. It's a bigger gamble. But yeah, I think, as I said, it's value based on the fact that 40% of the matches here do feature over 10.5 games in the first set, and you're giving us. Sorry, you're not giving us, but Bet Rivers are giving us plus 165, which is even bigger than the average. Then you have to take it. If it's unlucky, it's unlucky. There's another couple of matches here which I could throw into the mix, which are almost shoo-ins for tie breaks. If you want to briefly talk about that, if you fancy doing a parlay, Zhang against Etcheverry Pericard, that looks an absolute cert for tie breaks. I think the prices on these two are very short, though. I think it might even be odds on over 10.5 games in set one for these. Certainly isn't in Etcheverry Pericard. Both of these guys, not very good on return, and Petchy's only won
plus 116 over 10.5.
Okay, so you're getting a slight bit of plus money. Again, it's too short for me, but if you want to throw it into a parlay, that's really what I'm talking about here. And Petchy, 28% of return points won this season away from clay. Zhang scarcely much better on 32%. Both guys only win 25% of first serve return points. So if these guys are getting a lot of first serves in, they're not coming back, basically. Zhang plays 0.33 tie breaks per set, so you would expect him to play one per match if it goes 3 sets. And Petch is even higher at 0.38 per set. So that's one if you want to add that to the parlay. Shelton versus Opelka, I think it's kind of obvious, isn't it? If you look at the last 10 matches that these two have played on outdoor hard at main level, again, very similar numbers. Opelka, 28% return points won. Shelton, 31% of return points won. Opelka break serve 11% of the time. Shelton 12% of the time. And Shelton plays 0.43 tie breaks per set. So that, I would imagine, is odds on for over 10.5.
That's minus 110.
Yeah, that's too short for me. It's not statistical value at all. But if you are wanting to put a few things in for the profit boost or whatever, then those are two that are quite obvious but highly likely to come in.
And the totals in those matches are 24.5 and 25.5, which is 25.5 is unheard of for best of 3 sets. That's it for today. Give us your official pick, Sean.
Okay, so I'll just have to scroll back to the top. As far as the outrights are concerned, we took Dimitrov each way 40-1, Felix Auger-Aliassime each way 55-1, I believe he is. And the match bets, Etcheverry, I think he's 1.9 something to beat Arnaldi just based on the fatigue, and the other one officially, which I think is good value, Jordan Thompson, plus 165, I think you said now, to beat Hugo Humbert.
Yeah,
and the other one, Struff, over 10.5 in set one, which is also plus 165 for Bet Rivers. Struff over 10.5 in set one against Tsitsipas.
Etcheverry is now minus 104, so a little bit enhanced price for you there, and plus 165 for Thompson as well. So the market It's giving you some better prices. Head across to the Bet Rivers website. Make sure you download the app, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Follow us on Twitter and socials and all our socials app, because we win on Instagram as well. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube, on the show. Betting Weekly Studios is where you need to go, and click that bell and you'll be alerted to all the great content. There's a new show coming today. Myself and Neil Channing have just recorded the first week of the Betting Weekly Dojo, which is live, and that will be we'll get that soon. We also got a daily, Monday to Friday now, Betting Weekly live show every day, every weekday at 11 a.m, looking ahead to the day's action, the sporting action across a multitude of different sports. And obviously next week it's the start of the Premier League, and the guys have got some content coming away. Betting Weekly Premier League returns on Thursday, as does Betting Weekly Extra Time as well, looking at the leagues across Europe. So the action is hotting up here on the Betting Weekly Studios. It's certainly hotting up in my office. I'm absolutely sweating. It is absolutely boiling here today. The hottest day of the year in the UK. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the sunshine. Make sure you subscribe to this show, Betting Weekly Studios. Give us a comment. Anything you want to say, anything you want to mention, we'll mention on the next show as well. Okay, that's it for today. We'll try to get back to you tomorrow, some matches for Tuesday, but I think it's more than likely it's going to be Wednesday, given the day the schedules have gone at the moment, the tournament here in Cincinnati. Good luck with your bets, and take care.